Welcome again, another episode to Inside Bloods. This is a partner episode, so this is the second partner episode we've done, and today we're with Joel Dovey at JD Fitness, JDF Consultancy, sorry. So yeah, I'm just reading his top there, so I'm going but yeah, so Joel's one of our partners that's basically come in today to talk to us, which was really nice of him to do, because what we want to do is try and get as much of an insight as possible about kind of where our partners are in terms of who their clients are, where they're based, and how we can help them as much as possible. And then also it's quite nice in general just to kind of have a bit of a chit chat and discuss, the areas of fitness and health, and the medical areas as well, because our whole aim is to try and bridge that gap with people like yourself being at the front line, really. So yeah, first of all, I suppose, could you tell us a little bit about your company and what you do? That'd be really good.
Yeah, so start where it all began. Sort of became a PT, sort of jumped straight at it, training anyone and everyone, and sort of fell into training much more business owners. Just through, I think, my childhood, I grew up as a business owner, saw my dad run his business, saw my granddad run his, could see the pros and cons straight away. Yeah. But always been intrigued in business, always just loved the topic, loved talking about stuff. Even back at school, selling pens and pencils to my mates and stuff like that. Just little things like that I knew I was going to be running a business at some point. Just as and what that was going to be, I don't know. But yeah, so went in, really loved sport, really loved training. Got more and more into it. So yeah, became a PT. Worked on the PT gym floor for a good number of years, and realised that the conversation with business owners was just really inspiring, and that ended up me sort of going down that pathway and that route of working with more and more business owners. That then evolved into more of a consultancy and coaching business just through time. Saw a lot of clients over the years. They'd come to me when I was a PT. We worked together for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. They'd go away, undo all the hard work, come back, and we were, myself and the client were tearing our hair out. So that's where we ended up going then, looking at, right, there's got to be a better way. So sort of combine now my personal training experience and knowledge and sort of processes with my coaching and consultancy, whereby we can offer more of a slowly but surely standoff approach, where I can consult and coach them rather than standing over them every gym session. It brings their confidence up because they start to do things more on their own and autonomously. It strengthens their habits. It just ensures that they can then put that into practice for the rest of their life without me being there 24/7.
Amazing.
So, and that's the ethos of sort of what I've built then with the Above and Beyond program for business owners.
I was just about to ask you what the program's called. So yeah, Above and Beyond program, which is basically part of your company. Yeah. So what's really nice about what you're saying there is things like, like at GC Bioscience, kind of we're identifying those people at the front line, so dealing with people day to day, being in the very front line, sort of talking to people, coaching people, working on habits. So, like you said, like you started off as a personal trainer, but you're so now, like the level and the intensity that you're going through is incredible, because it sounds like your company is it's like a bit of life coaching, health coaching, and training as well.
Yeah, we get like so many people would ask me, like when I was a PT, like, oh, do you do nutrition? Oh, do you do like sort of? Can you show me like how to live a bit better and do this and do that? And it's like, felt like I was missing out on so much of the results that they could have reinforced really well with those things. So now, yeah, we absolutely look at lifestyle, which I guess could come under the life coaching sort of style. I'm not a life coach, but there's lots of habitual things in there that really relevant. There's the nutrition, which I try and support them with, help them with. And again, I'm not like a doctor in nutrition. I'm not high level. If you are suffering with certain symptoms, then that's definitely for someone else to deal with. But the simplicity of those things can be huge for a lot of people that aren't just doing these basics, the simple stuff. And then obviously there's the physical performance, which I see as being both physical performance through the mind, physical performance through the body, physical performance of how you feel, confidence. So I think that they're all really intertwined and interlinked. That they've all got
great. So it's really interesting, because obviously when you first meet someone, the first thing they say is, Joel, can I lose weight? Can I put on muscle? They're my goals. But the realism of it is that people don't understand. It doesn't, you're not able to do that within a matter of weeks. Or it really needs to be done over time. It needs to be structured. It needs to be planned.
100%.
And then you need to be entering into their stratosphere of their habits, their behaviors.
Yeah.
So I think that's so important. And so what are the kind of things that let's say you've got that kind of journey of a client, like you'll meet them first of all, you'll go through their obviously their onboarding, etc. What are the kind of health tracking tools that you'll use, like with a client along that journey?
Great question. So you've got, I'm going to start from just the absolute bare minerals, bare basics of it. So we would look at weight, we would look at hip and waist measurements, nice. And they're just the bare minimum, bare simple ones in terms of physical. Then I look at 4 different sort of metrics on just a simple scale of 1 to 5, and that will be on fatigue, that'll be on sleep, that'll be on stress, 3 of those. So yeah, sleep, stress and fatigue, just to give me a gauge on how they generally feel day to day, what they're finding most challenging. And then I tend to look at further things of fitness trackers. So some of my clients will have Apple Watches, which will give me a bit of a reading of where they're at. I don't solely go off those. I don't use them as they're not biblical, they're not absolute, but it gives me a rough idea. And my personal favourite at the moment is Whoop, to be fair. Yeah, so nice. I have a lot of clients using the Whoop band. Really nicely interlinks to me. We can set up a little group community, whether that's just like one-on-one with clients or whether it's all of my clients together. And again, that gives me some good insights, and they can send me over really simple files of how their last 3 months, their month, their week has been. So things like HRV, resting heart rate, blood pressure. Now Whoop covers all of those things, blood oxygen.
Yeah, we really are in like the data era, aren't we? Which is like,
yeah.
But it's really nice because it's one of those where people have these devices, they'll wear them, but then it's actually having someone there to interpret them appropriately in the right ways. So there's but people like yourself who have those, they're able to have that data, and then what happens is you can then influence their training, their lifestyle. You can say, look, you're overtraining, you're overworking, or you're undersleeping. Just I want you to do some yoga, or I want you to, eat
100%, which is probably 90% of the time, working with business owners, they are high octane, they want to get stuff done, and for them, more is better, and quite often, we'll plug them into the Whoop, we'll get them set up on a few bits and pieces, and it's like, actually, we need to draw back here, we need to focus on a few other things, and they sometimes feel like they're taking a step back, but it sets them up so much better for the future. So,
I think another big thing, I would say, and it's you've touched on it, really well. It's like, the behavioural and the lifestyle elements are key, and that's obviously what you do in, really, really well. And then it's the accountability. So it's having that ability to kind of say, right, you're wearing a device, you're now accountable to me as your coach. Mm-hmm. And based on that, I can see where your stress is. You need to trust me when I say dial it down or dial it up, and which is why we find it so important to partner with people like yourself, because actually, and I'll say it over and over, it's like you guys being at the front line, talking to your client every day, dealing with clients every day, and then you've got them where they might have done their Bupa health check, they might have done their blood test via their GP, and they've said everything's fine, but as well as I do, no one is fine, no one's perfect. It's like, and everyone wants to be as optimal as they can be to make sure they can perform as best as they can be.
Yeah.
And that's where we're kind of I suppose touching on that is adding that extra element is that blood testing. So I suppose going on to that, you know, how do you find that fits into what you've just said in terms of that health journey that you do with your clients, and how could you see that working best for you?
Yeah, I think it's now just going to be, it's going to help uncover a few more truths. I think that will help, definitely. We're going to be able to see just on a slightly deeper level what we can do with their nutrition. I think that's going to be an absolute massive one. A lot of my clients love to see just visually like where I am, you know, on markers.
Yeah.
So again, it's another visual for them to look at, for them to interpret, and for us to use as a really strong metric to measure against.
Nice.
Lots of other metrics that I use, you know, they have variabilities.
Yeah.
You know, I see at the moment, and from looking at the data and stuff, you know, bloods has a lot less variability.
Yeah.
So if we can do them well and do them properly, then why wouldn't we do it? You know.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And I suppose so. We've gone a lot the you know, the GC Metabolic 360. The key things really is looking at diabetes, looking at cardiovascular disease, looking at their immune system, looking at the red blood cell markers, then looking at their B vitamins, you know, looking at their iron, looking at their vitamin D. So, you know, I'm sure you deal with clients and they're like, you know, you're like, oh, what supplements do you take? And they're just like, oh, I've got my drawer full of you know, all these supplements.
Yeah, 100%. You know, a lot of them will be taking some, or they'll have gone through stages where they've taken all sorts, and then they've gone, well, none of them are working, so I'm just going to take none.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like, oh, okay, it's not like you can tear your hair out with it all.
Yeah.
And I've got some clients that will go to the nth degree. They'll read up on everything that they're taking, and they'll make sure it's the best of the best. And you know, it's proven here and proven there, and there's papers on it, and there's this on it, and there's that on it. But at the end of the day, like, that's still generalized. You know, it's not for them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not particular for them. Oh, they might not be sleeping well, so they're going to take this supplement. Oh, right, we might not have great energy, so they're going to take this supplement. It helps with this. Or they feel a bit bloated, so they're going to look at that. But at the end of the day,
Instagram, and I'm going to take this.
Yeah. Or what's the, you know, what's been the most rated, and what's had the most reviews, and you know, and all those things, and that's all okay. But if you're spending, you know, a reasonable amount of time and money, and you're investing in yourself, then why not find out the exact thing that you need?
Yeah.
Why not find out the exact amount, the exact type, the exact supplement, the exact food groups that are going to support you through the next 3 months or the next 6 months in you feeling better, and you performing better, and you supporting stronger digestion, or supporting stronger sleep, and those things that I often hit people here say, I've never been good at sleeping.
Yeah.
I've never been good at this. You know, I'll never be like da-da-da-da-da. But if you've never found out or looked it to a deeper level, then how do you know?
Yeah,
How do you know?
exactly. The thing we always say is, like, if you're not testing, you know, you're guessing, really. Like, it's so important.
Absolutely.
You know, like, why would you take a supplement if you haven't, you know, just because it's winter or whatever? You know, how do you know your biochemical levels or your individuality? And then looking at your absorbability as well. So, you know, is a spray better than a tablet? Is a tablet better than, you know, drops? Like, how do you know until you've actually tested someone before and after? So from a scientific perspective, you're testing whether that's working specifically based on that individual. And it's exactly the same as that. Is this training program working, you know, or is this nutritional program working to, you know, to make sure that we can improve our ability, our cardiovascular risk scores, you know, lower our sugar levels, you know, prevent diabetes, you know, because they may have been going to their GP and, you know, like taking their medication and, you know, taking blood pressure medication, then piling something else on, which they definitely should be. You know, that's fine. If they're at risk, absolutely they should be. But then we all know that exercise and nutrition can outweigh any of that stuff. So actually, if they're then testing it and then implementing what you're saying and then testing it again and find out, wow, look, I'm actually lower on my sugars, like my diabetes has gone down, my blood pressure has gone down. You know, you could say to any client out there, look, if I can get you down on these markers or get you off of these medications, like, how good's that? You know, that is so powerful for an individual. Do you see what I mean? It's,
yeah, 100%.
It's really, really important. So
100%.
yeah, just through doing what you're doing, which is great. So yeah, one typical thing we see quite a lot, and is as well, like, people are tired, they don't have the energy, you know, like, oh, I feel really run down, I can't, you know, I don't feel like I can train today, or blah blah blah. And you know, just identifying things like iron, B12, folic acid, you know, they would be quite key to actually boosting someone's energy, to then, it's like an easy win to then say, right, now we can get you in the gym, now we can go at it, you know. So yeah, the bits and pieces like that are so important. But yeah, like that, I mean, that's kind of how it typically fits in. So what would be your typical client? Like, you're saying business owner, so like, what sort of age, or what sort of...
I don't really focus on like an age or or gender as such. It really is probably a lot to do with their personality, I would say. So typically a lot of business owners, and I am sort of like tarring business owners with the same brush here, but typically business owners, the clients that I've worked with, are very much, they just want to cut through any of the crap and just do the do's, get them done and see the results. So with those type of clients that I work with, they don't want to be faffing about. They don't want to be, you know, airy fairy this, airy fairy that. They just want to know what they need to do, get it done, know that it's right, know that it's backed by good research, by good science, and take it from there. And then, you know, other bits and pieces that may be a little bit more holistic, they might approach me with and say, should I look at this? Should I look at that? And it really is just a sort of test and adjust sort of model with those things, you know, see if it works, try a little bit of it. You know, do it continuously for a period, and let's measure against the results that we're getting.
You tend to find those guys are really driven as well, aren't they?
100%.
They're just like, well, I've succeeded in my business, you know, by being really driven, like working really hard, sacrificing nutrition, sacrificing lifestyle, sacrificing, you know, family values as well. But then what I'm actually, you know, now I want to bring all that back, you know.
100%. It can often be full circle, and the realization, you know, some clients at sort of like their mid-30s, and they're seeing the children growing up, and they're now going, right, okay, in another 10 years or in another 20 years, do I want to feel like I feel now? And they'll go, absolutely not. Like, I do not want to feel like I feel now. In 10, 20 years, I want to feel better. You know, I don't want to be looking like how my grandparents or my parents are looking now in 20 years. So they're now seeing and feeling those emotions. And then they go, right, well, I've seen this guy can help, or I've seen this works. And I know that being more active is going to help me. And I know I can sort of slow my aging process down by eating these foods and sleeping a bit more. So if I do this properly, in fact, if I get an expert in, if I get someone in that knows and does this with business owners on a frequent basis, then I'll get there quicker. So I think that, you know, that
makes sense.
Yeah, which makes complete sense.
That accountability again, isn't it? They're being accountable to someone or something, which is going to help them reach their goals quicker. You know, whether that be a coach, you know, and then a coach was just going to dial into that data, like you say, like whether that's the blood tests, whether that's looking at the, you know, like their blood pressure on a regular basis, whether that's looking at their Whoop data, their stress, their recovery, you know, like there's so much to go on. Like I was saying, we're in this data era. So you kind of touched on longevity. So like, obviously it's the buzzword at the minute. So what, you know, where does that sit with your clients? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? You know, then what are they kind of saying to you? And then how are you then able to implement like this longevity, you know, phase that people want, you know?
I think it's really, really careful when you using the word longevity with clients, because obviously, like you say, it is a bit of a buzzword, or it's sort of trending, if you like, but at the same time, you don't want to have that goal so far away that not sure what to do now, or you get a bit impatient with what you're seeing now, because longevity is, as it says on the tin, like it's the long game. You know, that's down the line, that's in years to come. So I think it is very prevalent in a lot of my clients' minds, and I think certainly working with business owners and business owner parents, they are seeing it more of a physicality of, well, I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to suffer from dementia early on. I don't want to suffer from these aches and pains early on. I don't want to carry on with a sore back every time I pick up my child, or every time I'm going out and trying to go for a run or play this activity or do this sport. So I think it's the whole, as longevity is, there's social elements, there's movement elements, there's family elements, and you want all those to be great. You're in the middle. You have to be the one taking responsibility and the actions to make sure those things carry on and be in the best place.
They turn around and they're saying that they want things quickly, or they want to get stuff done, but ultimately, like you say, it is the long game. You've got to build those habits. People think that they can undo habits which they've been building from when they were young. So like eating chocolate bars and things when they're like 5 or 6, or cans of drink, and then having these sugar spikes that their body is then used to, and then all of a sudden you're trying to then wean them out of these habits. But it's like you say, it's longevity as well. It's this kind of buzzword, but really people are looking at health span in terms of actually how can you maximize their health as much as possible by in the years that they're living. So like you say, if they've got a bad back, or they're lying in a chair because they haven't done the exercise that you've asked them to do, like their health span is way down there. Like their inability to do a lot is very low. Whereas if they're able to move, play, interact, like into an old age,
100%.
That's as good as any like live long policy.
It's like, absolutely.
And that's where kind of like like you say, the principles that you're putting in place fit in really nicely. It's making sure that they're following them, really.
And it's building, like you said there, like it's building it into something fun, into something enjoyable. Some clients will absolutely love the numbers and just this workout's great, I'm chasing these numbers, I'm trying to perform at this and do that. Others will prefer to focus on something like a particular activity or a sport that they can become better at, even in their late 40s, 50s, 60s, but just purely through building their physical performance and being more resilient and being more aware of recovery and all these other components that will make them better at doing that. So sometimes it's a mixture, but I think definitely like making it enjoyable. It's not just a 12-week at this sort of like grit your teeth and bear it and crack on. It's we're going to do these things, and they are a bit hard. They are a bit difficult. You're not going to like it every single time you do it, but they're going towards something that you really enjoy. They're going towards you getting better at something that you really, really do laugh and have fun and enjoy and all the rest of it. So it's closing that gap definitely for a lot of clients, and helping them see that purpose behind the things that they're doing is a huge one.
It's like, I suppose, how long have you been in the industry now? PTing wise, as well as coaching, probably sort of 9 years now, 10 years. 9 years. How have you seen kind of like PT and health coaching sort of evolve over those years? It's probably been through a few different phases. I mean, I can definitely be, at the early days, I was definitely following those pathways and stuff where it's like gone from the Tupperware, the bodybuilding sort of, that's where a lot of the workouts were derived from. That's where a lot of the food was derived from in the whole PT sort of world and the fitness industry. And then it definitely moved from that, into sort of we've seen more of the hybrid athlete, and then I feel like even now, like the endurance stuff is starting to come through bigger, too. Bigger and bigger. It's becoming huge. Whether that's on bike or longer triathlons, just bigger and better distances. And are you finding like clients they want to track things and they want to keep an eye on things, and they then are doing less kind of drinking and like you know what I mean? You find they're focusing more on
I feel like definitely when the culture of the whole bodybuilding Tupperware, I feel like drink that was just everyone carried on. Everyone was eating out of Tupperwares and going out on a Friday and Saturday and that whole, or definitely I saw that period for sure, and probably lived and breathed it a bit myself too. But now definitely as we move more towards like the hybrid athlete, the high rock style, the hybrid training and the endurance stuff, and now how longevity is a big buzzword. I think definitely people are noticing, you know, you can even look at the stats now, like for the younger generations coming through it, you know, 18, 19, 20, 21, like it's just not built on the same way of going out, of drinking, of that whole culture. It's definitely changing. So
because as like business owners, like you say, it's like high risk, high reward, you know. It's like,
absolutely.
I'll work as hard as I can and then I'll give myself a big treat.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
I imagine managing that's quite tricky. And then like you say, but then they're very much, you find that the business owners are so driven, they want to do like long endurance stuff, you know, they want to work hard with that. But sometimes what they do as well is they'll kind of say, well, you know, I'm gonna eat whatever I want because I'm doing X amount of calories, you know, like and it's, you know, like how do you see that kind of fit in with your rhetoric? Because obviously you've got to, like we're saying, you've got to do the health coaching, you've got to wash all their data and statistics, you've got to work on their recovery. At the same time, they're going, look, I'm going to train as hard as I can. I'm going to do this big endurance, you know, and don't worry about my eating because I'm burning X amount of calories. You know?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, and that's where my experience as a coach comes in massively. I feel like I get better and better year on, year in, year out of managing that to make sure we don't, in the Above and Beyond program, that we don't overwhelm clients with too much and meeting them where they're at. So when someone comes into the program, we always do a consultation and then a calibration so that ultimately I can see exactly where they're at, movement wise, physical mobility, physical strength, but also what their current lifestyle looks like, so that we're not bombarding them with too much. You know, not everyone, I don't think, in terms of my clients, not everyone will want to go and get a blood test done straight away. You know, they'll have a few other things that they probably need to start getting on with first, and then we can look at the bloods, you know, a little bit further down the line. Others in a very different scenario, they might well be doing a few of those great things, or they might well have certain things going on in their bodies, or as I was saying to you before this podcast, you know, people that have struggled with certain illnesses that unfortunately they've just had to deal with. It's not been a choice in that. So then there's a few more factors that are unknown that we want to uncover, we want to find out more about, so we can see how to deal with it, how to best manage it.
So can you sort of talk me through like a typical client where you would see blood testing fitting in really well, and how it would sort of help? So for example, and obviously I don't want you to name any names anyone, but for example, if you had a specific client where you could think, just for the people out there who, you know, are thinking of partnering up, like, you know, like thinking of doing blood testing, but then obviously they want to make sure that they do it right and do it perfectly like you say, and they can base their model on someone like yourself who has been there, done it, and is integrating all these lifestyle, behavioural, accountability factors, which are so important. You know, so someone starting out, like a typical client.
So I'd say you've got the sort of category where maybe previous illness, and it's, you know, their bodies aren't like others. There's some certainly. So I've had a client before that's been through open heart surgery, and he's just really wanting to know exactly what's going on with his recovery. So we did bloods and we looked at different things, and that really unearthed a lot for him and helped him go, right, okay, well, my nutrition needs to look like this over the next 6 months to really help X, Y, and Z. And that gave him much more knowledge, and ultimately he was then able to put that knowledge into practice with the things he was doing. So there's that from the, you know, from an unknown perspective, or that they've dealt with something in previous years that is still affecting them going forwards. I think that's a big one. The next one I would say is perhaps like someone has gotten into reasonable shape, they're doing quite well, but there's still not quite something. There's still something missing. Maybe it's every time they eat certain foods and it doesn't agree with them. or they generally just can't do X and Y because they know it's going to upset their body in some way, shape or form. So there's ones like that are going, oh, I want this to be better. I don't want to have to live like this for the rest of my life, or for it to carry on getting worse. But they might well have, been working with me for a period in time and got into reasonable shape, and their fitness is looking well, and their health is generally looking good, above average for most, which is fantastic. But then they see this little blocker, they see this little thing that the doctor can't help them with. It's not bad enough. They've been to a nutritionist and they've sort of helped a little bit, but it's still not, they've not put the finger on exactly what it is. And I think that's definitely where the bloods can come in, so that's really nicely.
A lot of it's like health related stuff, I suppose. And then like what you're saying, and I suppose the other sector is that you've got health prevention, like the
100%.
The conditions and assisting with those conditions post GP care and medical care, which is really important, because I think it's so important seeing the doctors integrating with more people like yourself, for sure. But then the other side of things, I suppose, is like that health optimization, like you're saying, that business owner, that endurance athlete, is like, right, I want to be the best I can.
And I would say like definitely that third category would be that. They've come on board with me. They are going all out at it. They want to know exactly how to do it to the nth degree, and the more data, the more they can see things moving in the right direction, the better for them. So that is where we'd look at the whole shebang. We look at all the data, all the metrics, fully set them up, and we know exactly where we're going with it.
Nice. And do you see a lot of people with so obviously, like I was saying, like you being on the front line, like where people are telling you their woes and their problems and things, in terms of their health. So what are the major things are you seeing, like TRT, like low testosterone? Are you seeing like IBS? Like, what are the kind of things that you're seeing, like that people are struggling with day to day?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think probably the day-to-day ones are a lot relating to stress, whether that be work stress, family stress, all those things. I would say the next ones would be in and around their diet, and they just can't quite see what they're eating and how that's impacting them. I think that's a huge one. So being able to uncover some sort of home truths with that, really, and going like, okay, this is high. This metric here is showing like your weight's okay. This is okay. You're doing well with that, but this metric here is showing that it relates directly back to these foods here. This is causing that, and it's just being able to literally draw that line and go, lump. Flipping hell, I didn't realise that. Like
them to have a big buy into it.
Exactly that. And then the next digestion, like huge. But I think that's massively in relation to stress. I think that's massively relating to stress and sleep and a few other bits and pieces, and they all can pile up and come under that umbrella word of IBS.
It's crazy, isn't it? How as a I imagine when you first started your career, first doing that training course kind of thing, and then all of a sudden, like, you're taking on all of these kind of things like stress, sleep, like lifestyle, diet, training. Like it's become that you got so much responsibility, which is great because you obviously do it very, very well. But like the kind of the level that it's got to now, the complexity that you have to deal with is massive, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And the more we can help you with that, for sure. Like, as a value partner, it's great to have you.
And I think it's like sort of what I've always tried to do with my clients is, here's the really higher level stuff of nutrition, of sleep and all the rest of it. And it's like, what's at your level? What's at my client's level? What do they need? And then how can I interpret that and put it into stages for them so it's not overwhelming, put it into easily doable protocols and strategies and tactics that is just low-hanging fruit for them, that then they can carry on and that works for them, and how they do that is simple and straightforward, and it's not all the way up there. I think that in its simplest form, like that's what I want to try and keep on doing, and I think this
I think you do a great job of it, and I think it's key for like anyone out there who's looking at any of these kind of partnership, like these connections and these kind of like relationships, is that the big thing is with this is that you've got to, like I say, you're not just a trainer. Like, what you do is incredible, and what you have to deal with is incredible. So actually having those referral networks, or that group of experts and those individuals, that you can work with and interrelate with, is massively important. It starts to build up. It's like a sports team of saying, well, look, I've got this sports team, I've got this player, we want them to perform at their best. So we've got our doctor, we've got our, biochemist, like doing the, blood work with the doctors. We've got our physiotherapists, we've got
absolutely.
Like, it's just it's integrating to basically maximize people, which, like, that's kind of the that's the way it's become now. It's crazy because people have so much knowledge but don't know what to do with it. So it's great. And I think we've covered a fair bit, don't you?
Definitely.
Without touching on anything like TRT or anything like
anything particular.
any of the other fatty stuff. Like, it's just been a really nice conversation.
But no, thank you.
I think we're good. We'll probably close it off at that. If you're good. Awesome. Is there anything else you wanted to go into?
I don't think so. No, I think we covered it all.
I think so. That's pretty good. Yeah.
Brilliant.
So I just want to thank you again, Joel, and thanks for coming on the episode, and we'll look forward to working with you going forward.
Yeah, really excited to see the results and see how we can push on with clients and their results going forwards.
Definitely.